ACW is sponsored by BioBodi. Self-care through skincare. BioBodi is for everybody. Welcome to ACW Podcast. I am Robin Gabriel-Parson, your host, and it is November, Diabetes Awareness Month. Welcome to November. The weather is beautiful. We are going to be discussing diabetes and culture this month. And we're going to be discussing it on many different levels. How diabetes affects your skin, how it affects your mouth, how it affects women who are who have childbirth. So we'll be talking about diabetes on many different levels. But today I have our amazing life science expert, Dr. Gary Gabriel, here to share his information and resources around diabetes and the skin. Quite interesting. You don't always hear a lot of conversations around diabetes and the skin. So welcome, Dr. Gary Gabriel. We're looking forward to all of your information and resources that you're going to share with us today.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I'm glad to be here and once again speaking to people about health issues. And today we're talking about diabetes, and you probably think it may have nothing to do with the skin, but it does have a lot to do with the skin. When you just look at diabetes in general, it can affect just many parts of your body. And it's really based on when your glucose levels or blood sugar levels are very, very high. The bottom line in terms of what does diabetes do, it impacts your cardiovascular system. Diabetes is really a cardiovascular disease, which is really about the degeneration of your cardiovascular system, your microvascular, which feeds all of your organs, including your skin. So when there is a degradation of the microvascular aspects of your body, it can lead to very detrimental effects on things like the heart, every organ in your body, your eyesight. And since we're talking about skin, it can actually have detrimental effects on skin. And oftentimes there are many people that are not diagnosed yet with diabetes that will show symptoms of pre-diabetes and diabetes through their skin. And so, hopefully we can shed a little bit of light on what that is. And so that's a little bit of the biology lesson. It is a huge impairment in the Afro-American community, and along with hypertension. And so us trying to understand, particularly for those that are undiagnosed, how can you see aspects of it that might suggest that there's a diabetes risk through the skin. So that's the kind of thing that we're kind of talking about right now.
We honor and thank everyone in the fight for social justice. Teachers, healthcare workers, and all of you in high-risk jobs. We know it's stressful, so we have a gift of thanks from us to you. For more information, visit BioBodi.com. That's JABODI.BODY.com. You're listening to ACW Podcast. I'm Robin Gabriel-Parson, your host. Our special co-host is Dr. Gary Gabriel, life science expert. Thank you. Now, our conversation today is diabetes and culture. I was sharing with our listeners, you're going to share your resources around diabetes and skincare. Or just skin conditions. Many times people don't realize that diabetes also affects your skin. So please share that with us.
Absolutely. Just a little bit of background so you can understand why it even affects your skin. The statistics are out there. In the U.S., diabetes can affect over 30 to 40 million people. It is a huge impairment on on a broad swath of the population. The disease itself, people were like, what is diabetes? Diabetes is really a cardiovascular condition. What happens is that it is simply like the death of your vascular system over time. And the thing about the death of that vascular system means that every organ in your body can be affected, and one of those organs is the skin, which is, it can be aspects of your skin. Your skin has cardiovascular to it, and what happens is that it is a degradation of your cardiovascular systems over time, and that's why you have people losing their eyesight, losing their limbs, being at high risk for stroke. Every part of your body is wired with small micro uh, um, vessels which travel, that bring blood to different parts of your organs. And so what diabetes is a death of that microvasculature in your circulation, in your circular system, to bring blood to important organs. And like I said, one of those important organs is your skin. So you're definitely going to see effects into the skin. So I just want to set the pace for that. You have two types of diabetes. You have type 1, type 2. Type 1 is your body stops making insulin, a very important hormone for the homeostasis or maintenance of glucose in your body. And so, when your glucose is really, really high, and there's no insulin to control that, what happens is that glucose can be high enough to cause things like obesity and cardiovascular disease, and lead to things like diabetes. And so when you go to your doctor will run a test, and the test is what's called a hemoglobin A1C test. And hemoglobin is a protein that's in the lungs. It's hemoglobin is a major protein in your blood cells, and it carries oxygen, but it also binds glucose. So when your hemoglobin A1C is high, that means you have very high glucose in your system, which might be indicative of you being diabetic. So it's a little bit of biology lesson there, but there's a direct impact on your skin and skin condition. And there's a whole range of different skin conditions that can be affected.
We honor and thank everyone in the fight for social justice. Teachers, healthcare workers, and all of you in high-risk jobs. We know it's stressful, so we have a gift of thanks from us to you. For more information, visit jabodibody.com. That is JABODIBODY.com. You're listening to ACW Podcast. I'm Robin Gabriel-Parson, your host. Our special co-host is Dr. Gary Gabriel, life science expert. I appreciate you bringing to our attention that diabetes is a cardiovascular disease. So, correct me if I'm wrong. So, what you're saying is that your skin is not breathing when you have a diabetes condition?
No, that's what I'm basically saying is that your skin is being fed blood. Blood is needed to bring oxygen to your skin and bring other nutrients to the skin. And when the vascular system, look at the vascular system as being like billions and billions of strands of thread that carry blood. And if those strands start to be cut, you can't bring nutrients and blood to the skin to keep the skin healthy. So what happens, the skin will start to show signs of a lack of blood flow. And so if that's the case, you start to see the physical and visible signs of it. And it's nutrients, it's things that can result in having anti-inflammatory aspects of maintaining your skin. And when those billions and billions of strands of thread which carry blood, I'm talking about, and I call it thread because that's called the microvasculature. When the microvasculature is interrupted, you're interrupting blood flow to the skin. So it's not a case that the skin can't breathe. It's a case that the skin is not receiving a flow of nutrients which allows the skin to be healthy. So that's the issue there.
Awesome. Thank you for clearing that up. So what does the skin look like when you say diabetes affects the skin? How can you tell? What are the effects?
Well, there are multiple effects. There's a whole range of different medical terms that are associated with effects of diabetes on the skin. So, one is having like yellow or kind of brown patches on your skin. So, that condition in the medical community is called necrobiosis lipoidica. And necrobiosis lipoidica often begins with small raised bumps. They look kind of like pimples. And then as that condition furthers itself, the bumps can turn into like little patches of swollen hard skin. And on Afro-Americans, you can actually see that. You can see like these dark, rough patches. And you see people sometimes they'll have dark patches, dark blotch patches on their skin. It's not to say that is necrobiosis lipoidica, but if you're seeing yourself having a lot of patching on your skin, you really want to see a doctor and at least try to get tested on whether or not you have diabetes. So that's one condition. Another condition is like it's called digital sclerosis. It's really this kind of hard thickening of the skin. Skin has it'll be on the backs of your hand, and so it'll feel like a waxy scale on your skin, and that's called a digital sclerosis, and that also can be indicative of complications due to diabetes. And then the other thing too is just blisters. So people that can get like these spontaneous blisters, you don't know when, where, and how that you get them. That can be an indication, of that you can have a diabetic condition. The blisters kind of look like, after you have a burn patient, you burn yourself on the stove, you get like a blister. In the case of diabetic patients, you can have these kind of spontaneous blisters that can appear on your skin, and that's another one that kind of gives you a telltale sign. And then another thing is just kind of getting like skin infections. You can actually have painful skin infections. Again, spontaneous. You don't know how they occur. The skin you can have dry, scaly skin that happens at various points in time over your body, and it can actually feel like more of an itchy rash. And then another aspect of people having high blood sugar is open sores and wounds that literally take a long time to heal, or it's hard for them to heal. And those are typically called diabetic ulcers. So those are just a few ways in which disruption of the microvasculature and having high glucose can affect your skin and result in some of those conditions. And if you have any of those, definitely see a doctor.
We honor and thank everyone in the fight for social justice. Teachers, healthcare workers, and all of you in high-risk jobs. We know it's stressful. So we have a gift of thanks from us to you. For more information, visit jabodibody.com. That is JABODIBODY.com. You're listening to ACW Podcast. I'm Robin Gabriel-Parson, your host. Our special co-host is Dr. Gary Gabriel, life science expert.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Oh, thank you so much for all of your information. Listeners, I hope you are taking notes and paying attention because diabetes is a very quiet, silent kind of disease. And you don't realize you have it until certain conditions. So thank you for that so much. Dr. Gary Gabriel, question. Diabetes, when it comes to skin conditions, what type of, should I say, medicines or skincare a person should really focus on when they're having these different skin conditions?
Well, the biggest thing is that you got to go to your doctor because there are medications for it's the conditions are just outward displays of the disease itself. And the biggest thing is that you got to look at medications that can help with the cardiovascular issues, because this stuff is pretty severe. The diabetes, the fact that you're getting degradation or degeneration of your microvascular system, it has huge, profound effects on the functioning of your heart, your liver, many of your major organs. So the skin, even though, you can look at what's happening in the skin, but some of the more critical organs, not to say that the skin is not critical, that some of these organs are life and death. Having a stroke, that's a life and death event. So it literally is really getting in and looking at the medications from your physician, what your physician prescribes. It's not so much anything that we're going to tell you to put on your skin. The only thing that we can tell you to put on your skin is things that can help alleviate the discomfort of those conditions. But you have to start at the source first. The source is understanding where you are in the disease progression and getting on the proper medication and the proper coordination of care and the proper follow-up. And then all the other things that can be managed, skin conditions, we can manage those with a range of things. But it's really starting at the source, starting at the disease first.
Thank you for that. Now, in reference to, I just want to talk a little bit about our type 2, because a lot of our children are being affected with type 2 diabetes. And a lot of children also have skin conditions. So as a life science expert, a child being diagnosed with diabetes at such a very young age, what do we want to share with our listeners when it comes to parents, when it comes to diet, when it comes to, I know a lot of times it may be genetics, but those genetics can be altered. I mean, not altered, but you can change that generational. So what would you suggest to our parents when it comes to our youth and so many of them being diagnosed with type 2 and how we can steer them in a more healthy direction?
Well, a lot of it too, with diabetes, there is that you really, every person is different, and the combination of what results in the disease output, it can be different from one person to the next person. So there's really not one size that fits all for any one individual. The key is getting the proper diagnosis, and so on a type 2 aspect of diabetes, which is a whole different form of diabetes. The key on diet is again going with low carbs and low glucose, trying to keep the glucose levels low. Issues of weight management. When you look at people that are type 2 diabetes and even type 1 diabetes, weight management is very, very important for that aspect. when you look at, we're talking about skin. As parents, you got to kind of look at your child and look at, are there any wound healing issues? Are there any dark skin patches or skin patches like some of the conditions that we just described? And so it's kind of surveillancing your child from a physical standpoint to see if you see any perturbations, things like fatigue, things like frequent urination. All of those things would be signs of having your child checked out. And again, at the end of the day, you can never go wrong eating as healthy as possible, eating raw foods, staying away from processed foods, which also can work on keeping your weight down and maintaining a normal or a more equalized glucose level. So those are the key things that I would look at from a child standpoint. A lot of times people kind of look at children and look at humans. There's some aspects of human and child biology that's the same, and there's some aspects of it that's very, very different. But those are the things coming right out of the bat that I would look at concerning children.
We honor and thank everyone in the fight for social justice. Teachers, healthcare workers, and all of you in high-risk jobs. We know it's stressful, so we have a gift of thanks from us to you. For more information, visit HpDBody.com. That is JABODIBODY.com. You're listening to ACW Podcast. I'm Robin Gabriel-Parson, your host. Our special co-host is Dr. Gary Gabriel, life science expert.
Thank you. I really appreciate all the information you are providing, Dr. Gabriel. Now, we talk about self-care. Our whole message is self-care in order, regardless of what conditions you may be going through. What do we suggest to those who are dealing with diabetes? How do they enhance their well-being when it comes to making sure I'm going to have a quality of life in spite of? I know I have a condition, but what other things can I do to make myself feel good or release the anxiety of diabetes? Self-care is always important. So you want to just kind of share with us some self-care tips?
Well, yeah, I believe that one of the biggest self-care things you can do when you look at any disease is knowledge of the disease. Because when you don't know about something, you can raise anxiety, you can raise stress over it. And not having the knowledge means you don't have a perspective that allows you to take the proper action on what you should do. So that's the first thing. First thing is understand where you are in the disease. Some of you may be in situations where you don't really know you have a disease. And there are millions and millions, tens of millions of people that walk around undiagnosed with respect to diabetes. So learn to examine your body. Really look at, the consistency of how your skin looks. Think about your eyesight. Think about your level of energy. Things like fatigue can be an instance. I mentioned earlier, frequent urination. Look at that. But above all of that, also take time to invest in your health care by visiting a physician and a doctor. And the reason why I'm saying all this first is that to deal with any disease, you have to deal with it from a position of mental strength of what you know about your disease. So learn about your disease, because by learning your disease, you help manage your anxiety over disease and the stress over disease. So if I have a disease like diabetes, like in anything, your body has its own little thermometer of stress. And if I don't know about something, or if I get a patch or my wound is not healing the way I thought it should heal, and I don't know why, I can go into a whole mode of stress. And so, again, having people that you can talk to, friends, family, even co-workers. You know, we are one village, so we should be each one's keeper. So that's the first thing, because that will help manage the stress of a disease by being knowledgeable of disease and how we connect. And once you do that, the key on that is looking at ways of alleviating stress when you have certain aspects of the disease that you don't understand. It's like, for instance, you may have a skin patch that won't heal, and you're upset about it, and it sends you into a stress mode. The thing about all this, which is what I'm saying on this, I'm really focusing on health management and us being an advocate for our own health, is from the perspective, I don't want to pretend in any way. I'm Chief Scientific Officer of BioBodi Natural Products. We make skin products for different skin conditions, but we make products that can help with giving some relief to a condition. None of the stuff that we have is a cure. And so I don't want to position BioBodi at all as a company that says, hey, just take this and your diabetes will go away. That's not who we are. We help with skin conditions and giving relief to skin conditions, but we're not a cure. And so, in the future, that's where we're going. We're going to be a therapeutic company that goes down that road, but we're not there. We're not there yet. And that's why I'm focusing a lot of our time and discussion on you being knowledgeable and being an advocate for your health, because that's the single number one thing in dealing with the stress of a situation and how you manage your next actions. So I just kind of wanted to kind of share that.
We honor and thank everyone in the fight for social justice. Teachers, healthcare workers, and all of you in high-risk jobs. We know it's stressful, so we have a gift of thanks from us to you. For more information, visit jabodibody.com. That is JABODIBODY.com. You're listening to ACW Podcast. I'm Robin Gabriel-Parson, your host. Our special co-host is Dr. Gary Gabriel, life science expert.
Listeners, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Gabriel, for all of that valuable information. We hope what Dr. Gabriel has shared with our listeners will help in any way that you feel it could be supported, helped. But Dr. Gabriel, can you share your contact information with our audience in case they want to follow up with you on something you might have mentioned?
Yeah. So you can find anything that I mentioned, you can reach out to me at Gary at JA-BODI.com. Gary at JA-BODI.com. And then, like I said, I'd be happy to converse with you. And like I said, in the end, any information that we can impart on helping people become advocates for their health, or anything that we can do in a small way, we will freely provide information.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gabriel, for joining us today. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. Until next time, you guys have a wonderful day. Live life with intention, purpose, and love. Thank you, Dr. Gabriel.
Thank you.
ACW is sponsored by BioBodi. Self-care through skincare. HpDMS is for everybody.